We are tonight's entertainment.
You can't handle the truth.
The fire rises.
Pizza time.
You're a wizard, Harry.
So it begins.
You know how much I sacrifice?
You think that's air you're breathing?
Groovy.
I don't have friends. I got family.
We are Sex People! 1, 2, 3, 4!
Craft Services.
Hey, Trent.
Hey, Parth.
Good to see you.
You too, man. You're looking well.
We host a film podcast, as I hear.
We sure do. What have you been eating?
Well, Trent, it's funny you ask me because we obviously, elephant in the room, we did not release an episode last week. Sorry about that, but we're back better than ever. It would have necessitated us it was a Trent-only recording was in play for the intro, outro, and then because of scheduling, it just became easier to just push for a week.
Yeah, it was funny how I was like, yeah, Parth, I'm down to record the intro, outro. I'll do it tonight. And you were like, I think it'd just be best if you just didn't. It would just be...
Okay, this is not entirely
It
how
would just make
happened.
everyone sad. That's how it felt. That's how it felt, Parth.
Trent, I don't want you to feel bad. I only want you to feel glad.
And yet, you don't have to look far to find a Trentless intro.
So,
Parth and I just had 45 minutes of really nice conversation, but
Yeah, as
you've
soon as
got to save the confrontation for the live show.
Well, conflict is good for entertainment. But because we were chatting for probably like 45 minutes, I realized, I'm not feeling too good. I'm quite hungry. So I asked Trent right before recording, hey, can you give me a minute so I can go make some oatmeal? And he went, okay. And so I made apples and cinnamon oatmeal, like Quaker Oats oatmeal.
I think I only laughed like that because it's nice to have the shoe on the other foot. This has been a very
Where I'm
relaxed morning.
delaying. Yes.
You're delaying. You're leaving to make meals. You're sending me YouTube links, and we're stopping to watch them. And Parth, I've
missed you, Trent.
How this all started is because this morning I just sent you a cool YouTube link, and then you were like, "What if we recorded?"
I realized we needed to record, and you are famously booked and busy.
And I was like, I didn't mean to get myself into all that. I was just trying to send you a cool video, but like, give me a few minutes, and I guess we can do this thing.
But Trent, you should give me what you've been eating most recently.
Well, Parth, I'm gonna hold up the evidence. Do you know what this is?
Oh my!
I'm gonna give you a 360 view.
Is that Ensure?
It's an Ensure original. So I've gotten it down to a system where, like, on my walk to the subway, there's a deli 2 blocks away, and I can get in and out and have purchased an Ensure in, I would say, less than 15 seconds.
Trent, that's pretty magical. One day you're going to have me come along for one of those endeavors.
And
to see you in action.
Today's my off day, so it probably took me like a minute. I like held the door open for someone.
You're courteous.
You know, I like waited patiently. I looked around a little bit. But one of the guys charges me $2, and that means it's going to be a really good day. And one of the guys charges me $3, and that means it's going to be a little less good day. And today was a $3 day.
But Trent, it's an off day. You can afford $3.
Yeah. Oh, the thing I wanted to jokingly mention is that when I'm in such a rush, it's fun to tap my card and then basically run away before it's gone through, because it's like
it leaves the cashier with a little bit of fear.
Because it's like, as an adult, babe, it's like, I know I can clear that shit if it's only $3. It's like
Especially if you know Part's gonna send you $100 if you need it.
It's like, I ain't a rich man, but I know I can run away. I know it's gonna clear over just a single Ensure.
And for those that are just listening now and have not been along for this Ensure
Parth
ride,
has loaned me money.
Well, that is one thing. A few times now. But
twice, ever.
3 times. Eagleton,
3 times.
and
Yeah,
then the other 2.
Yeah, 3 times.
Yeah, let's just be clear. But no, I'm happy to loan Trent money because he always pays me back.
With interest.
Well, $1. And then
that's interest.
But no, we've mentioned that both Trent and I share a childhood love of Ensure and have both had to have Ensure withheld from us because we were drinking it too much as children, but now we're adults, and while I've not gotten back on the Ensure grind, Trent sure has.
When you're too lazy to make a meal, you can feel like you almost had a meal for either $2 or $3, and that's pretty cool.
What else is pretty cool?
Wait, our film podcast, and this week's guest. I'm just so eager
Trent,
to get to that.
We can't reveal it till we cross over a barrier, a threshold.
I'm familiar with the threshold you're speaking of. It's not like the person clicking on this doesn't know that this is like part 2 of like, so it's not much of a reveal, but more of a comment, like cue the intro. I don't know. Welcome back to Craft Services, where we talk about the movies. Each week we talk about a film and hopefully have a crew member of that film where they talk with us about their experience working on the picture. This week our guest is cinematographer Chris Messina. He was the DP behind Mary Bronstein's If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, starring Rose Byrne. It was really good. I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the look. I unfortunately wasn't able to be there, but Parth held it down.
Oh, wow, yeah, I totally forgot that you weren't there for it, because what I was going to say is, and starring Conan, which I believe this part opens with me saying, so I'm a Conan fan. What was that like, shooting with Conan?
Yeah, and Conan just hosted the Oscars. Maybe we can circle back to that, because that just happened. But let's not without first giving our flowers and thanks to Chris Messina. Thanks for coming on.
Chris Messina, the cinematographer, not the actor, to be clear.
Oh, there's an actor named Chris Messina?
You've definitely seen him before, but like he's like one of those guys.
He's that guy? Yeah, I have seen this guy.
I mean, he's just like a white actor man, but like he's a good actor.
Well, he's not on our show, but DP Chris Messina.
The better Chris Messina is.
If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, a cool movie you should go watch if you haven't already.
And after you watch that movie, you should listen to the interview, which we're queuing right now. So I'm a huge Conan fanboy, and that was my avenue. Obviously, I work in the film industry, but that was my avenue into knowing about this movie. And he's a small part, but he's a very important part of the movie. Could you talk about shooting with him, and any stories you may remember? Just 'cause...
It was interesting. I was a big Conan fan too. I used to watch Conan, his like late show. Was it the Late Show that he was on initially?
He took over for David Letterman, so he did Late Late, and then the Tonight Show, and then he got kicked off that.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, I would watch that when I was, I don't know, I guess it would have been like in middle school at the time. It was fun working with him because it seemed like he felt honored to be there. Like he wasn't. Mary had sought him out for this part. It wasn't like he had told casting directors, like, I'm looking to be interested
in my dramatic debut.
Getting into movies, yeah. And I think somebody reached out to his reps and said, there's an A24 movie, and he felt like, oh, I should take a look at it. And she was able to convince him to be in the film. I think she just had a sense. I think the story she told is that she was listening to him being interviewed or maybe on his podcast and just heard his voice, and that she could sort of suddenly picture him as a therapist. He does have very a good voice. So, I think he was, very honored to be there. He felt, it's interesting. I think he felt bad that he was not more empathetic to the character, that he had to be sort of like, because he's a very nice person. And like when she's breaking down, to not react and try and comfort. I think was something that he was struggling with. The other fun thing, I have a picture of this somewhere, is that while he was in character, he was actually making little notes in his notebook about the things that she was telling him, and they were very humorous.
Was with Conan, I guess, but also just sort of generally speaking, was there improv happening on set?
I don't think that the script was pretty locked. There definitely wasn't the kind of improv that you would see in like a normal comedy where it's like guys just riff for a little while. The two scenes where there was a little bit of that was when Rose is seeing the patients that she has. There's the boy whose name I can't remember what his name is in the movie, and so the two sort of like not main character patients that she has. We would let the camera go for a little while, and they would sort of have a little therapy session based on some ideas that Mary had about like what they would talk about, but we would let it run long, and then they sort of snipped out the pieces that felt the most interesting.
Yeah, another sort of standout section of the movie is, I mean, the whole, like the first half of the movie, I guess, like the daughter really wants a hamster, and finally she gets a hamster, and the hamster immediately dies, and is like hates the child and Rose Byrne. So, what was a real hamster? Was there a prop hamster that you ran? I mean, obviously it was a prop hamster that ran over the car, but could you talk about, shooting with both versions?
So there's a real hamster. I think his name was Butterfinger, and he's not in a lot of shots in the movie. He wasn't a great actor. He would try and like immediately hide. So the hero hamster is a puppet, but there was a team of puppeteers that built this hamster, which is I mean, I love all of these practical effects movies, from the 80s and stuff, and they built a very convincing hamster that had little kind of like a rod puppet, I guess they call them. So there's all these different rods, and then there was a remote controller that like controlled the features on its face and its hands and stuff like that. It's like a switchboard with like 12 switches on it. So there would be one guy who was doing the rods to like make the hamster general body movements, like coming up and down or side to side, and then a second guy who would be controlling the features on the hamster, like the opening of its mouth, and it had a thing to make its nose wiggle. It was a very elaborate puppet, and I've been surprised. There's been a lot of people who didn't think it was a puppet at all, which is great. I don't think it was ever Mary's intention to like fool anyone.
It's a funny effect, like it's a little off, in a way that like is clearly intentional, but it's like a fun effect.
Yeah, I mean, Mary would say very specifically that she didn't want this movie to feel like a verite movie, that it's like reality, and that everything is sort of filtered through the subjectivity of the character. And it's sort of an odd mixture of fantasy and reality that you can't totally, we can't say for sure, especially as the movie goes further on, exactly if what we're seeing is real or if it's just something that's in the character's head, or it's being interpreted by her state of mind. So I think that it actually was better that the hamster is a little unreal, a little surreal, and you're not totally sure what to make of that situation. And I think it comes at a point in the movie where it gives permission to the audience to kind of laugh for a second, and then also be like, where is this movie going from here? Kind of anything can happen.
And if I'm remembering, there's a zoom. Is there a zoom when the hamster? Or did I create that in my head?
The first shot of the hamster is like we're zooming into the rearview mirror, and it just like keeps going into the rearview mirror, and then its like head comes out of the little box, or you see the nose first through the little holes, and then his head pokes out. And there might be a zoom when it gets run over also.
That's what I can't remember if like that's my memory of.
No, I think it was like we were timing the zoom in the car and everything.
Yeah, great. I mean, I love a crash.
Yeah.
So speaking on the like sort of intentional break from reality, the daughter is afflicted by just sort of generally things are going wrong, and like it's just like horrible, and it sort of all culminates in Rose Byrne pulling the tube out. Could you talk about shooting that scene, and also with that like contraption, what did that look like on set?
There's a few different prosthetics that were built for the daughter, one that she could wear and one that was like a standalone thing. Primarily what you see in the movie is she's in the scene, and she's wearing this like prosthetic that like the tube could fit into, because obviously she didn't have a hole in her stomach. But I think that was sort of I think with these practical effects, you always wanted to like feel like in the same space, and so her being able to wear it and us being able to move a little bit and see the breathing and to catch bits of her arm and the rest of her body, it was good to have that. The standalone one was more for the way that the hole could kind of move after the tube was taken out. Kind of it's more of its like hero moment. But yeah, it was still even though it was built to do this thing, it was still like I think these practical effects you never get to test them as much as you would like. I think that's been my experience on like every movie. It's like, someone's always working on something till the last minute, and it's like, oh, we would love to test and revise, but you end up having to adapt on the day. I mean, even the hamster, I don't think we saw until the day we shot with it. one person was going to do it, and then he ended up not being able to get it done in time, and then these other guys stepped in. They wanted to do it, but they were building it. So it was a lot. It's a lot of a like leap of faith that like these things
Will
will
work.
work out.
Yeah.
And I think practical effects. One of the main reasons people do things with VFX now, in general, is that the practical effects tend to be expensive too, and you don't have as much flexibility. But I think there's certainly a lot of value on set to when it works. I mean, all of those scenes, the hole in the stomach and also the hamster, just watching it through the camera, like you could tell that the scene was really going to work, and it was like going to be amazing. As opposed to, we did a few things that were going to be more VFX in them, and they ended up being cut out partially because of, I think they would have just felt weird in the movie to do something that wasn't. There's no digital effects in the film at all. It's all practical and done with. If there is an effect, it's two things are composited together, but in a way that you could have done it in 1970
with optical effects.
Yeah. I mean, that was always the intention, was like, let's do something that could be made on an optical printer, even though it'll be done in a computer for the sake of simplicity.
In my limited time with effects, I feel like the psychological impact it has on, just from like a, wow, that's cool that we did that, that is like very important on a set.
Yeah, and I think you have more control over like it feeling like it should fit in the movie. Ultimately, a lot of these things, and I've heard other people talking about this, like you don't always have like a VFX artist that you've collaborated with for a long time, and sometimes there's like 10 different companies handling the work, and a lot of it's up there interpreting what they think you might want, and if you don't have a long relationship, that can be a lot of back and forth and a struggle just to get it. They weren't on set for all of the days of shooting or all of the days of prep. They don't know the project as well. So I think it's a challenge to communicate that vision and to be able to do it on set and make the adjustments there and at least get it. I think you want to get it 90% of the way there. Sometimes there's like something needs a little bit of help, or the things like with the puppets, they have to paint out the rods and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of like sweetening that has to happen digitally, but feels more in line with the type of filmmaking that we're aiming for the rest of the film.
Can you talk about, you talk about this, the ocean and like the beach area that you go to towards the end of the movie. Could you talk about shooting there? And that's also where, the whole movie you don't see the daughter's face, and then you obviously do. Did you ever shoot a version that was different than that, or where you didn't reveal, or that was always the plan?
Yeah, I mean, in the script, it says, page 1 of the script says, like, we don't see the daughter's face at all in the movie. And then at the end, and then the last page of the script is like, we see her for the first time. I'm not spoiling it for anyone here, but I'm assuming
if you're listening to this,
anyone listening to this,
if you made it this far,
yeah. So that was always the intention. I think I think the only variation was whether or not we would end on just the daughter's face or cut back to Linda. But yeah, that was like I think there were a few big conceptual ideas in the movie, and that was probably the biggest one, of like not seeing the daughter, and like we never shot any coverage of her for safety. I mean, we wouldn't have really had. I think it would have been a waste of time, for one thing, because nobody really wanted to use it, and also it would have cut into the time that we spent shooting the things that were going to be in the movie. But that was always the intention to reveal her at the end.
We always ask what was the hardest scene to shoot and the scene that you're most proud of. They could be the same scene or they could be different scenes.
I think in terms of, I think that the hardest, there's two scenes. The scene that I was the most worried about before shooting and really had no idea if it was going to work was like the last scene in the movie on the beach, because there were just none of the ways that we thought about shooting it were possible for various reasons. Mostly the beach wouldn't permit us to put any equipment on the beach, really. We talked about potentially using a crane. We wanted to be able to see her face, like when she's like getting in the water, basically. So we talked about using an arm to get out more, or flying a camera, or even just lighting the beach. Like all that stuff we couldn't test ahead of time. Couldn't put any lights on the beach. They all had to come basically from the like hotels or over the top of the roof. And the final plan going into it was like, we'll get a hydroflex housing for the camera, and we'll just like go out in the water and kind of float there. so that we can like look back and we'll see everything, and like the camera will be like slightly submerged. But another thing, we couldn't test that ahead of time anyway either. I should go back a little bit. There was, I said, we were going through all these different ways that we could possibly do it. And I was talking to another DP friend of mine to try and like, just like sort of lamenting like, how am I going to shoot on in this water? We can't use any equipment. I'm not going to be able to see anything. Like I'm going to end up having to just like walk into the water with the camera on my shoulder, like as a joke, and then realize that like might actually be the only way to
get the scene
to film this scene. So that was sort of the intention, and then also to get this like hydroflex housing so we could put the camera in the water out in the ocean. But on the day when it showed up and they put the camera in the thing, it's a big, extremely heavy and large casing that the Alexa 35 would fit in, and then there's a cable that tethers it to trigger the recording and to control the focus. And so I went out as a test. And we had been scouting the beach like every night because it was right down the street from the hotel to kind of just try and wrap our heads around how we were going to do it. And it was always so dark, couldn't see anything. And on all of the previous nights, the water was like very calm and still. Like I don't know if this is going to look good at all. It's like not going to be. It'd be weird if this woman just runs out and sort of wades into the ocean. But on the night that we went to shoot, the waves were huge. It was so rough. And I tried to go out into the ocean just as a test without the camera. I had I don't think I had the camera with me. It was like me and the water safety guy, and I had a life jacket and like a wetsuit to try to see like where I would position myself. And I was going to need to wear like the life jacket to like, because I would be holding the camera, I wouldn't be able to swim, but I couldn't like duck under the waves then if I had a life jacket on. So it was just like we walked out there and I just like immediately got like thrown to the shore, like basically like washed ashore. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. And then as it turned out, so then I would have had to get on the other side of the waves to shoot, but the focus cable wouldn't reach far enough to get out past the waves. So it turned out that I was just like, well, I guess I'll handhold the hydroflex thing and sort of be like halfway in, sort of like up to my waist in the water. So we put the hydroflex housing onto like, I wore like a Cine saddle sort of sitting on top of that. And then I was like hugging it. And then we just like shot scene, sort of went for it. And it was, once we started shooting it and you saw like how intense the waves were and like just like how hard they were hitting her and like the way the water was washing over the camera, it became immediately like obvious that this was like probably the best way to do the scene.
Yeah, the movie gods were ultimately on your side.
Yeah, and it's like I just felt like a huge sense of relief. This is like day 6 maybe of the shoot, and I was like, oh wow, the movie like will be fine now. Like like the end is going to work, and I think the day before that, maybe it was the day after, we shot the like final scene where the camera like sort of swings around and finds the daughter's face, and I feel like once the ending of the movie was like had been shot and we had seen the footage, I had no worries that the rest of the shoot there was going to be like any problems. So in that sense, like that, and what they ended up doing with the sound design for the scene as well, like we had talked about shooting some other stuff, getting some actual underwater footage, but I think once the Mary and the editor like went through the footage, it became clear that it was going to work. So that was the one thing that was really sort of unplanned, I guess I would say, in terms of how it actually got shot. We had like we had storyboards for the whole scene, and like we couldn't do any of those shots. Like it wasn't technically possible to get any of the places that we intended on putting the camera. But I think that the way we ended up having to do it and how like uncontrolled it was and how hard it was even to just like be moving with the camera gave it a very unstable and chaotic feeling that really lends itself to like where the movie is building to, I think, the whole time.
Yeah, I mean the final footage looks pretty incredible, and it works.
But the harder, so that was challenging. But the other scene that I think was really tough was shooting the upstairs scene inside the apartment, looking down into the hall, because we just couldn't build the whole set. I think that it's like the one scene that we kind of had to cheat a little bit. Most of the movie like really exists, like the set exists 360 degrees and like the environments really exist. And that was the one thing that had to be sort of built on a stage and couldn't fully exist. It wasn't like a real apartment building. And we're limited as to where we could put the camera. And that's the one day on on set where I feel like everybody's head was kind of melting a little bit. It's like it just didn't. And it ends up working in the edit, but I think like through the eyepiece, it was always a little bit like, is this totally going to work? And I think that's a function of partially how I prefer shooting, and I think also Mary just comes from a world of like not wanting to cheat things and wanting it to feel real, and it's hard to totally reconfigure your brain on set when you can see, if you open the eye that's not looking through the lens and see that there's just like an empty warehouse. It becomes, the suspension of disbelief becomes a little bit harder. Anyway, not as dramatic as the ocean.
No, but still good to know. Starting to wrap out, are you working on anything that you can talk about?
Not specifically. I mean, I'm hoping to do another project with Mary later this year that sort of is moving towards getting made. But, fingers crossed at this point.
Well, if you're ever in New Jersey, you've got a crew.
And I have the movie that I shot after If I Had Legs is coming out this month.
What's the name of that one?
It's called Our Hero Balthazar. It's out on the end of March, beginning of April, depending on where you live. Anyway, it's a cool movie. Worth seeing. Keep an eye out for it.
Will do. And now you've reached the final big kahuna final question.
Okay.
Which is just, what's the last great movie you watched? And it can be a rewatch or a first time watch, but it can't just be good. It has to be great.
Let me consult. I keep a little list of the things I've been watching.
Letterboxd has been of great use to previous guests.
Yeah, I haven't signed on. I haven't made a Letterboxd account yet, but I actually was thinking about it recently, just for the sake of like
logging.
Yeah, and just reminding me to kind of track things. And I do so. I just keep like a list in my notes, and then sometimes I go back and just like totally forgotten that I've seen something, which is disturbing. And it's like 3 years ago. I just like have no recollection of a movie that I watched. I recently, the last like two, I rewatched Repo Man the other day because I was in a conversation with someone, we were talking about Robbie Mueller, and like, I think he's just one of the best. I hadn't seen it in maybe like 20 years probably, or maybe even since I was like in high school, like when they used to play it as like a cult movie in the local movie theater at like Saturday at midnight. It's really great. And I think that the cinematography in it still feels fresh now. It's still like, there's a lot of things in it that just like, movies don't look like that anymore. And I think I'm always sort of aspiring, I think, into that aesthetic of things in like in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, like where I think movies just looked good then at some point. I think that there's an element of like the way that people had to work when working on film, and before there was sort of digital abilities to kind of fix things where things don't always look perfect, but they can look great. The other movie I watched a day or two before that, which I had no familiarity with prior to that, was Night of the Juggler.
Oh, I don't think I've heard of that one.
I hadn't heard of it either, but I was like sort of astounded by, it just seems like it'd be an impossible movie to make now. They're shooting in New York, seemingly on like live streets, and there's like car chases through Central Park. I don't know, look for it. It recently got a like re-release. I guess it had been unavailable for 40 years for some reason or another. But it's cool. It's a type of filmmaking that seems like it's really challenging to do now, where it seems like it would require a really big budget, and you just would never be able to control to shoot in these like live environments, which I'm assuming they're doing. Otherwise, it's just like incredible amount of detail to like
coordination,
coordinating the extras and all that. But a really cool, just like New York City movie.
Well, thank you so much to our guest, Chris Messina. He's the cinematographer behind Mary Bronstein's If I Had Legs, I Would Kick You. Thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much to Chris Messina for coming on. We love the movie. I wasn't there, but I love you. Parth loves you. We love you as a team. Our producer Bash, he loves you.
Barney core right now. I love you. You love me. Well, I guess.
I didn't say he loved me.
Yeah,
that would be weird.
That would be a bit strange.
But there was nothing weird about what I just said. But our team loves you. We love the movie. We love the work. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, and while Trent wasn't on the interview, he did watch the movie and add to the questions list. Some of which I'll admit, Chris Messina said were good questions. You know it's good when you
Parth,
ask a question
I'm not
and
all bad.
the interviewer goes, "Oh, that's a good question." And Trent, you got like 1 or 2 of those.
Parth, people think I'm the villain of this podcast.
People think
not,
you're the worst.
I'm not all bad, guys. I'm not all bad. And speaking of that, if you happen to invest a lot of money into the craft services parlay, and you woke up Monday morning.
For reference, the Oscars occurred, and we talked to 3 people nominated for the Oscars. Autumn Duralt Arkapaw for cinematography for Sinners, Fiona Crombie for Hamnet for production design, and Jerskin Fendrix, composer of Begonia. And the Oscars have since commenced. The Oscars have been given out.
The craft services parlay, as Parth just explained, if you're a first-time listener, I joked that people should bet for this to occur, for all 3 of our guests to win. Unfortunately, the craft services parlay only went 1 for 3. So if you are upset about losing money, I just wanted to say, please do not come to Parth and I about this matter. It's not our fault.
No, we don't really have money to give.
Sometimes when
Trent
you bet
spent
you
his last
lose
$3
money,
on an insure. You think you're gonna get money from him?
it's not our fault.
It's like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting.
It's not your fault. So if you're angry, we don't care. We're sorry though.
Oh wow.
But congratulations to everyone who's nominated. Congratulations to Autumn Duralt Arkapaw, and congratulations again to Fiona Crombie and Jerskin Fendrix. What an honor to be nominated and attend the show. I just wanted to jokingly put a bow on the craft services parlay. It did not hit, unfortunately.
No, it didn't happen. But
it would have been super cool. I sincerely thought there was a world where it could happen because of how cool all 3 of these guests were.
And in their respective
categories, I was like,
the things that we'd actually talked to them for. I mean, like Sinners obviously won, and it has been
deserved
noted.
it.
Yes, definitely. And
then the
is
production
noted
design
for
in Hamnet was awesome.
Yeah, and the score for Begonia is awesome.
And the score for Begonia was one of my favorites. I was like, this could fucking happen. So that's why I brought it forth half jokingly, half sincerely, and now I'm putting a bow on it half jokingly, half sincerely. But I didn't actually bet any money on it. And I hope you didn't either.
I know we encouraged you, the listener, to, and said that it was, no risk, total guarantee. This is what's going to happen.
We said it was a total lock.
Bet the bank. And for those of you that did, there's no more bank. And
no, it did not hit.
What did hit was this interview with Chris Messina, which is great.
Yeah, it hit. This hit.
Thank you so much to his team. Thank you so much to him. We hope to have him on again. We hope Mary Bronstein makes another movie with him so that we can talk to them about that.
Yeah. Congrats, Rose Byrne, on your nomination.
Yes.
You were really good in this. This was a cool movie. Go watch it. Wait, but talking about where you can listen to our show,
which is what we were talking about.
Spotify, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Pandora, wherever you get your podcasts. Parth, I'm not fucking done. I'm not fucking leaving.
What?
YouTube. We're on YouTube.
We're on like Donkey Kong, and our episodes are our back catalog is starting to upload. Trent, we're in year 2022 now.
I know.
We're finally making it.
Laughing. The Muppets episode is up. I've been laughing, seeing, being reminded of old episodes.
Yes. But go check us out on all your major podcasting platforms. Make sure to stay updated on our Instagram and Twitter. And thank you so much to you, the listener. Thank you so much to Producer Bash, who really
Producer Bash, you the man.
He's the only reason that these things are coming on YouTube. I couldn't figure it out. He did.
Keep being you.
Keep being you.
You make
But really, keep being me.
You make us stronger. Bash, thanks. Follow us. 5-star review. Or 4 stars is fine.
4 stars is fine, but preferably leave a review.
Parth, what if I told you, and I won't expand on the air, that I met the person, and they admitted that they were the person who gave us a 1-star review?
Are you joking?
No, I'm not joking. And I was like, haha, that's so funny. And I was like, I've thought about this for fucking years.
And you'll confirm this off air, but like, was this a friend?
I thought so.
Yeah, I mean, I guess fucking not. That sucks.
I was like, what a low blow.
I just rate it 4 if you didn't want to rate it 5.
Or don't
sucks.
review us at all. A 1-star review hurts our show.
It does.
They're probably the reason that we're not getting paid millions of dollars in ads. In Blue Chew
Seriously.
ads, Parth.
It is solely because of them.
We could have boner pill ads.
I mean, hey, I'd take anything at this point. Wegovy,
What's that?
Sky Rizzy. Wegovy is, I think, weight loss.
BetterHelp? BetterHelp?
Yeah. It's
That's
really
for like the big dogs.
Mm-hmm. Remember when there was like loot boxes were like a big thing?
I had Loot Crate for a few years when I was
that's
younger.
what it was.
It's funny listening to Come Town podcast, if you know what that is,
Oh, I'm well aware.
because they're incredibly popular, but they're like so inappropriate that the only companies that will give them sponsorships are like Kratom and like Delta 9 and like Boner Pills, and
sure.
and they like talk about like pedophilia during every one of their like ad reads,
In a
and
pro or anti stance.
just like clearly in a joking way, like they're
So
comedians,
neutral.
that's what they
neutral.
do.
That's cool.
But just while doing an ad read of any kind, I think it would be sort of a nightmare for the company to hear their name associated with that. But it's really funny. Apparently, I'm very late to the game, and even knowing what that is.
Yeah, my are you a recent listener?
I am. Well,
My
knew
roommate
it-
Tom has been on that train for a while. I've known of them. I don't really listen to them. I do like Adam Friedland's show every now and then.
Yeah, I knew about the Adam Friedland show first, and then I sort of
Fell back into
understood in reverse that he was
it's like
basically the
reverse
third.
entropy.
He was
Tenet,
basically the third chair on Come Town, and now he's
the
has his own
most
show.
famous one.
Is he the most famous one? Isn't
I don't know if he's
Stavros
the most famous
one?
I guess Stav is probably the most famous, but I think he's the one that, because of the Adam Friedland show, like he's got like Gavin Newsom on and like
Yeah, and
real
Zoran.
guests and stuff.
Mark Cuban. Yeah, and Nick Mullen is like maybe the funniest, but he seems to have like receded into the shadows. But frankly, on our podcast, we should not be talking too fondly about any other podcast, because the only podcast you should be listening to is ours. Here at Craft Services, this is a monogamous relationship. If you're not all in, we're not interested in your viewership. If we're not the
Oh.
only podcast in your life, if we're not fulfilling all of your needs, then find someone else. Find Armchair Expert. Go listen to Smartless.
Don't.
Go listen to Conan Needs a Friend.
Well, you can listen to Conan Needs a Friend. Maybe that's apt for this episode.
There are other fish in the sea.
And other humans on land.
But if we're your everything, we're here for you. Forever and ever.
We'll see you next week, guys.